Please give a big Eugene welcome for Henry Rollins. Yo, make some noise for Henry. Keep it going for Henry, yo. Keep it up, y'all. Henry Rollins.
Thank you. Let me get my stopwatch adjusted. I'm allotted an hour. If I had my way, I'd be with you all day. I have so many things to tell you. First off, and please take what I'm saying without any irony. I mean this sincerely. It's really nice to be in Oregon. It's really nice to be in Eugene. I never came to this state before I did rock and roll. And many, many years ago, I was in a band called Black Flag. Thank you. And we would come to Oregon all the time. People found our music to be very cool. And the first time I came here, I believe it was Portland. And then later on, we got to play Eugene. And I remember it being kind of cloudy, a lot of moisture in the air, but the people were really cool. And I also remember we played a house. It's a gig, but it was a house. You bought a ticket and went to a basement of a house. And we played, and there we are with our truck and all of our gear loading into a basement. And it was one of the best damn shows. I think it was Black Flag and Husker Du in this kid's basement in Eugene, Oregon, and it absolutely smoked. And so, like Alex said, I don't use cannabis, but please understand, I don't put down those who do. I just am wired, we're all unique in our own wonderful way. I am wired to where any stimulant it's depressing to me. Many years ago at 7-Eleven Hamilton in Trenton, New Jersey in April '87, after band practice, my rhythm section, who were amazing on cannabis. They could smoke and do tightrope, tai chi, surgery, and they could play. You could not tell they were high. They were completely functioning. And so we're hanging around the bass player's dining room table after band practice with nothing to do. We had no money, nothing to do. And they had this big, beautiful smelling joint. And I said, let me try that. They all stopped. They went, you? And I went, yeah. Because like, what the hell? Let's try this. And so I got high immediately, like incredibly high. It was not subtle. It was like getting hit by something. And so they gave me a big plastic glass of water. They go, here you are, you need some water. So I held the water out for me, trying to put it on the table, and I couldn't do it. And they're like, what are you doing over there, Henry? I said, I'm trying to put this plastic tumbler down on the table, but I can't do it. They go, how do you do it? I go, you just do this. And they kind of pushed my arm down, and it hit the table. And so I said, how long does this last for? And they said, a while. I said, okay, I'm just going to sit over here. And I just sat and waited it out. And so it just wasn't for me. So let's go back in time, shall we? A few years ago, I pitched an idea for a show on History Channel, a series I was doing called 10 Things You Don't Know About, and insert thing at the end of that sentence. 10 things you don't know about presidential assassinations, 10 things you don't know about whatever. I proposed to History Channel 10 things you don't know about the history of marijuana or cannabis and hemp in America. Because I knew enough history to know that a lot of people should know this, and I thought I could be a good proponent for the cause by getting this onto a major cable channel. And somehow they said, that's a good idea. I knew it was, but to have a bunch of execs see it my way was quite a shock. And so at one point, me and my sturdy crew, we find ourselves at the Cannabis Cup a few years ago on 420 in Denver, Colorado, with thousands and thousands of brightly attired young people waiting to go into some massive building to celebrate the legalization and decriminalization of cannabis. And it was so much fun to see the cops so bored. There is nothing for them to do, as almost 30,000 kids are in an orderly line that goes around the parking lot, around the building, down to Long Beach, California. It was this endless line, and the cops were standing there, sending the hacky sack back. Could you please put your frisbee back on the sidewalk? I mean, the cops were bored because these people were so nice and so orderly. Being History Channel, we're given access, so we go in before everyone, and we have our cameras poised right at the doors when they open, and everyone runs in. And they run past our cameras like, yeah, I love you, Henry! the nicest people on the face of the earth. And it occurred to me in that moment that maybe one day, if we do everything just right, we won't have to have the cannabis cup, and we won't have to wait in lines brightly colored with this explosive celebration just so we can partake in cannabis. We can just say, I'm going to the store, I'm getting groceries, I'm getting cannabis. It's just not all that much of an event because it's legal and it's part of my life. But for now, it's this thing. And so there's two parts of this venue. There's the non-smoking side where they're selling merchandise, and people from High Times are there doing press. People are selling new accoutrements, like places to put your weed on your bike, in your luggage, whatever. And we're trying to conduct interviews with people. And the interviews took a long time because people were celebrating, and they weren't exactly able to answer questions all that clearly. So after about 2 hours of not really getting much good interview, we decided, what the hell, we'll go into the smoking section and try our luck there. And so we go into the other half of this massive enclosure, and the air is right with cannabis, so it smells really good. And within 10 minutes, I usually can memorize every single question I need. I can memorize pages of stuff at a time. On this day, I'm looking over through the haze to the producer. What's the question you want me to ask this guy again? And the guy standing next to me, he's like, what are we doing? And I said, hold on, the host is elevating. And so after an hour of me not being able to remember what the question was, thankfully it was time for lunch. And so we were taken away to some green room area, and I'll never forget this. I ordered up some tuna sandwich, toasted with cheese. It was a wonderful thing. And I'm eating this sandwich, and the taste is exploding in my mouth. As a cherry tomato would burst inside my mouth, it was like taste bud fireworks. I was like, this is the best sandwich I've ever had in my life. It's more than a sandwich. This is like the best thing ever. And I wanted to make a comment to my comrades, but I didn't want to be that guy. But my curiosity to see if any of my fellow workmates were having the same taste experience, I said, am I under the weather, or is this the best sandwich you've ever had? And they all went, right? It's great! And so all of us were feeling the effects of cannabis, and it made lunch fantastic. So let's go back even further from that. I am older than almost every single one of you in this room. I'm 56 years of age. Well, I'm just saying, the thing I'm making reference to is American history. I come from Washington, D.C., and to the left of my mother is Joan Baez and a wall. To the right of my father is Joseph Stalin, a Fox News host on vacation, and a wall. And so I was passed between the two households. So 5 days a week I get Bob Dylan and We Shall Overcome, and 2 days a week I get my father on whiskey and making me sing the national anthem over and over again on his front lawn. His opinion was if you inhaled marijuana you would turn gay and the empire would crumble. And so that was kind of the mood and the attitude of marijuana in Washington, D.C. when I was in high school, where if you knew someone who smoked marijuana, the perception was, he's not lazy, he's evil, he's a deviant. And this is when gay people were called queer, and homophobia and misogyny was everywhere. It was on TV, it was on the radio, that's all fine. But marijuana is bad. And then we heard about a thing called paraquat. And the whole time, I'm going to a prep school for boys, and there was no light or levity in that environment. And one time, a kid, a 14-year-old kid, I was like 16 or 17, he brings onto the back of the bus a joint. It's about the diameter of a knitting needle. There's no marijuana in this, it's mostly paper and spit. He's like, hey, look what I've got. And we're looking like, are you insane? You have marijuana on this bus. He might as well have had a bomb. We're all terrified to stand next to him. We're all going to go to jail. You realize, I've seen a joint. Oh no. And then, right around that time, I started going to Arena Rock. And I saw Aerosmith with REO Speedwagon opening. And the entire Capitol Center in Largo, Maryland smelled like cheap arena weed. And I remember standing next to Ian MacKay from the band Fugazi. We've been best friends since we were 12. We're standing next to each other like, do you smell that? Oh my God, people now just are smoking marijuana. to be okay. Because we didn't exactly believe reefer madness, but we thought part of it might be true. And this was the perception of marijuana not even a few decades ago in this country. And so the point I'm making is, just in our lifetimes, we have come a long, long damn way. And so in the years that went forward, me not smoking, I started meeting more and more people who used cannabis. In high school, I wanted to meet girls, and I was shy and didn't have the hookup. So I would hang out with people who knew what parties were. And so I would go to these awful prep school parties where you were immediately judged, and you'd go in, and there's these guys, from the rowing team, like, what school do you go to? I don't care about talking to you. I want to talk to the girl standing next to you. Get out of our party. And no one wanted me. And then outside of most of these parties, were the ne'er-do-wells who couldn't get in, and they were the ones smoking weed. And like, hey man, did you go in there? Yeah, they didn't want me. Come and hang with us. We're the potheads, the potheads. And that's when I found out I should buy Robin Trower records, because I would hang out with the potheads, who eventually I found out to be the greatest of skateboarders, because they were calm and without fear. And I would go to these skate ramps in the woods, in the suburbs, and you smell marijuana, which is no longer an unfamiliar smell in my life. And you'd see these guys utterly stoned, dropping into these half-pipes like, watch this, man. You try it. Absolutely not. I'm afraid of gravity and I have no grace whatsoever. And so it was not this thing where, oh, you're stoned and you can't do anything. You were stoned and you were capable of quite a bit. And it was my on-the-street interaction with cannabis and cannabis users that started to change my mind. I got it from the real events. And so then I joined Black Flag, and I go into this punk rock world where there's a lot of speed, a lot of cocaine, a lot of anger, a lot of death, sadly. And I lived in Redondo Beach, a little south of the airport. And Black Flag did not necessarily hang out with people who went to the shows. They were maniacs. But our neighborhood was full of stoners. And we would hang out, and that's not exactly a pejorative, but that's what they called themselves. And they would call us, hey man, we're having a party in our garage, you guys want to come and play? Yeah, we'll come and play. We'll play this insane, aggressive hyenas on the Serengeti Plains music at your stoner party? Absolutely. So we go in there loading our gear like a bunch of feral barracudas, like, here's our music. And this guy like, all right. And the place, I would play in basements full of pot. And the main stoner, the guy who would throw the parties, his name was Casey. And Casey would come up to me like, hey man, we know you don't drink, and we know you don't smoke, man, so we got together, man, and we got you a Martinelli's apple juice, man, because we know you like to be healthy, and we're so happy you're here. I'm getting near wet. The stoners are the nicest people. And then we would go play one of our own shows where people are sitting there like, you suck, I paid $4 to beat you up. And so I started enjoying hanging out with the people on marijuana, and I never was curious to ever try it, but I liked being around these people who are so friendly and so cool and so sane and so rational. And so that's a little bit of history. Here's some more history. And I know that you know this. I just think it's a great idea for all of us to be in the same room at the same time to connect some dots. You know that there has been an animus towards marijuana since at least the end of the Mexican Revolution, when what they called ditchweed started coming in. In the 1930s, enter your wonderful friend Harry Ansler of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics, 1937, the Marijuana Tax Act, which basically made marijuana illegal. And in that time, marijuana was demonized. It was a brown people's drug. It was a black people's drug. It was a jazz enthusiast's drug. Real Americans, white, Christian, they got drunk and went home and beat the crap out of their wives. That's what a good, upstanding American did. And they smoked unfiltered tobacco, and they ruined their bodies, but that was the American way. But to smoke weed, obviously, you want the communists to win. And around 1970, the Comprehensive Drug Addiction Prevention and Control Act came in, and that would be Hoover, Nixon, and I think an aging Anslinger. Article 2, underneath the umbrella of the aforementioned act, which I'm not going to repeat for fear of getting it wrong, was a thing called the Substance Control Act. And from that, you get your schedule. Schedule 1, Schedule 2, Schedule 3. Schedule 1 is all the bad stuff. Heroin, and now MDMA, ecstasy, etc. But right next to crystal methamphetamine and heroin, drugs that could really do you some damage, was marijuana. And any sensible person knows that THC has nowhere any kind of lethal capacity like anything else in this Schedule 1 category. That was a scam. Just like a lot of things that are happening in the justice system in this country to lock up nonviolent people because they have an ass pocket of weed in Louisiana. It is a scam. It is a way to keep beds in prisons full. It is a moneymaker. And so the reason I told you that is because I want all of us to be in the room together to acknowledge what a damn miracle it is that we are here in 2017 having this conference and having this conversation. Because the history of cannabis in this country is also, in fact, the history of the United States of America, where white people came in here, killed everyone in the way, enslaved a bunch of other people, got free labor. As soon as the 13th Amendment came in 1865, they assassinated the president who brought it in, and by the 14th Amendment in 1868, equal protection under the law, my favorite, the one that Antonin Scalia hated in Obergefell v. Hodges, all you got from equal protection under the law was Jim Crow laws, an expansion of the Klan, and basically an institutionalized apartheid in a way to keep brown and black and poor people always in jail, always under the knuckles of law enforcement, and always able to bilk the taxpayer out of the buck to keep these people in prison. On that level, not a great deal has changed. I believe that the state of Oregon is extraordinarily progressive, and it sounds like I'm sucking up, but I'm saying this without any irony. I think history is going to judge the state of Oregon very, very well, in that I think you have taken care of the state, and when you look outside and smell the air, I went walking in the beautiful shopping mall last night. The air is extraordinary. You have taken good care of this state. You realize what you have to lose. I think Oregon could be one of the leading states in this country as a way forward to break in other states, to be used to the idea of the legalization, and my pet peeve, the decriminalization of cannabis. And so, anytime a state goes legal, so far there's been 8 states and 1 district, District of Columbia, D.C. Anytime any of those states went legal for recreational use, it is my opinion that they looked at how much money they make incarcerating people, putting them in beds, and charging $8 for every single meal that costs them 45 cents, against how much they can make with the legal regulation and taxation of cannabis. And they ran the numbers, and the numbers said, let's go for cannabis. And so a lot of these states went, but only by running the numbers first. Any state, wonderful Oregon, they ran the numbers first. And so your state government, I would hang out with them, but I'd also realize I'm hanging out with a barracuda or a crocodile. Don't take your eyes off them, because trust me, they did the numbers first. And as soon as those beds become empty in prisons, they are going to find other ways to fill them, because the prison industrial complex will not be denied. And so I told you all that so I can tell you all this other stuff that I want to tell you. In 2017, we have come a long way from the days of reefer madness and Harry J. Anslinger and all these tax acts that basically kept marijuana down, to not take responsibility for that history as an entrepreneur, as a vendor, to me would be not only missing the plot, but it would be letting down so many people who are not here to celebrate this. A lot of people died for this. A lot of people, like Alex. Alex has been on a single-minded mission for decades to get to this day right now where we can sit in a room as real rational people and have a conversation about cannabis and the legal vending of it. And we're not crazy. We don't have crazy claws and one eye in our foreheads. We're sane, rational, scientifically inclined people who want a gentle, clean, progressive, smart country going forward. And what you see in opposition, in my opinion, are the last days of some very old people who are very deeply invested in bigotry, in hatred, and ignorance. And that's why you have Donald J. Trump. And that is why Jeff Sessions. And so, and he is an awful piece of work. And you've done your reading, you know your history. The man hates marijuana, and he hates those who use marijuana, which would be literally millions of people in this country. So he is our enemy. And he's been making subtle threats about coming over here and doing something about these 8 states in 1 district that want to be legal for recreational use and medical use. Already, 29 states are legal for medical use. And when you look at polls, overwhelming majorities, depending on Quinnipiac, whatever polls you look at, are overwhelmingly in favor of legalization of cannabis. So he is outnumbered, just as Trump fans are outnumbered by everyone else in this country. And so we have to wait this administration out. I'm not saying stand still. I'm just saying we live in a country full of people who do not like what we want to put forward. They don't like where we're going. They don't like who we are, and they think our values are really awful. And it is my opinion that a lot of you who are going to be vendors or have your stores, you're going to make money. I hope you do. I really hope you do. I hope you make a lot of money. But I hope you understand that with this money, the fact that you are selling cannabis, you are also part of a revolution in this country, in our lifetime, in this century. And it's no joke, and I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. This is fascinating, this point in history where we are. And we are part of a great change. We are overturning perception. We are overturning decades of prejudice, of racism, of bigotry, of misinformation, of wrong information, of great prejudice. And don't think that this is a small deal. The fact that we're here right now in 2017, this is a huge deal. And just to be someone who uses it is one thing. To be someone who sells it is a huge thing. You are a steward of civil rights moving forward. You are a carrier of something that has been in the works for decades. And I'm not saying you have this onerous responsibility that's going to bend your collarbone. I'm just saying I hope that you take some care, realizing what is to be lost and what can be gained going forward. If I was an entrepreneur looking to sell, I want to be selling to every single person in my town. I want to make money. And so my strategy would be not great discounts, it would be great social outreach, great education. I would treat my dispensary or my store like a microbrewery where I love every single drop of the product that I'm making. I love every single ounce or gram that I am selling. During the time I was in Denver, Colorado, working on the History Channel show, we were allowed to go into a grow facility the size of a freaking Walmart. It was insane. It went from here to your house with a roof over it. And the scientist who's been working on cannabis since he was in college, they are cloning his strain in this building. Every single plant had a government barcode. Inspectors are in there all the time looking for any bits of detritus that had fallen on the ground. That's a leaf, what's that doing there? The standards were very high. It took him about 3 hours for him to walk us through how they grow cannabis in this facility. These lights go on for 3 hours and this solution is in the hydroponic pools. It is drained, another solution goes in, a different light goes on for an hour and a half. It was incredible. And we walked through the guts of this machine all the way to the end, where there's a bunch of really friendly people in really comfortable chairs clipping the leaves off buds to package them, put them into the armored truck to go to their dispensary. It was all contained. And so we went from the grow facility, which was fascinating, and we went to the place where they sell. And we got there early, because we're History Channel, we need to light the room and film it. So we got there at some ridiculous hour of the morning, before it was open, and we met the staff. So I said, treat me as a customer. I'm new at this, what do I want? And they go like, okay, well, you might not want to try this. It's very hallucinatory. It's kind of not good for a beginner. Maybe we would steer you towards this. Every single person in that shop was completely knowledgeable about every single product they sold. A wonderful, friendly, charismatic, bow-tied man greeted you at the door and brings you in, and you are taken to a helpful person who advises you. We interviewed these people for quite a while. And so as the camera people are rolling up their gear, I'm standing outside waiting to go to the next place. And as the place is opening, a line is developing, waiting to go in. And this is one of the best things I saw. The line was an elderly couple. The line had a businessman checking his BlackBerry. I'm not making this up, this was real. The elderly couple, there's a businessman in his power suit, and there was a student on his bike. Basically, I'm looking at every single possible demographic in this city, and you see how many people use cannabis. The elderly, the business guy, these are not evil people. This is real people. This is America, if you will. And that's when it hit me. What is at stake going forward? Because if these people are showing up in Colorado, these people will want to show up in Ohio, Michigan, Illinois, Florida, South Carolina, etc., etc. And it was a fascinating look at who really uses cannabis in this country. And so, if it were me, I'd be looking to sell my dad cannabis. And like I told you, my dad, an amazing racist, a champion homophobe, and a record-breaking misogynist. He's also a PhD, so he should know better. But he's just a mean guy from an older slice of America. I have no idea where he is. I don't hang out with people like him. Last time I saw him was at least 30 years ago. But I would like the outreach to be so clear, so sciencey, so progressive, so friendly and informational that you can even get my mean father, who might have arthritis or lower back pain, to walk into a cannabis store and say, I've got aching hands and swelling feet. Can you help me? And to get my dad on cannabis, that to me is the customer. And when you flip those people, the whole country will go. And so I'm fairly begging you to, as you go forward, like I said, the money, you're going to make money. Money's going to happen. I just hope that you have care and decency going forward. A long time ago in the major label industry, the art used to dictate the industry. And then the industry started to dictate the art. I remember somewhere in the 80s, record labels started putting out unbelievable, mediocre crap. And guess what? They lost everything. Whole floors of major label buildings went dark because they're laying off staff, because everyone finally went, you know what? This music sucks. And it costs too much, and you're treating us like idiots, so stop. And thankfully, I loved it when that happened, because I knew I was right all the time. And thankfully, the major labels came into the breach, and now the independent labels, rather. And the independent labels are now better than ever. The best bands in America are on independent labels. And if you contact these labels, someone writes you back. When your record arrives dented, they send you another one. Why? Because they care. Well, that's like, we have to get back to you in 6 weeks. We only made 40 of these, man. I gotta go to my dad's house to get the other one I left behind the couch. Hold on, dude, we'll get back to you. Where it's real personal. I'm hoping that you all understand that you serve the community you'll be setting up your store in, and that is of great importance to know the people who come into your shop. You are, in effect, a mom and pop store, and these people who are buying from you, if you're only in the business to sell something and make money, I'm not going to say screw you, I like you too much for that. I'm just saying you're failing the job. In my opinion, you're selling not only a product that makes people happy, but you're selling medicine. You're selling something that can help get someone off an opioid addiction. And so you are basically up against big pharma, big agriculture, the prison industrial complex, and the entirety of the Trump administration. Because now they're finding that cannabis can help with men and women who have returned from this awful war in Iraq and Afghanistan, and it helps them with their PTSD. They are finding that there's all kinds of things that cannabis can do. You've always known this. I've always known this. And so you are an affront and a threat to their bottom line. And they love money more than they love you, of course. And so this to me is the burning message that I wanted to get across to you. The money's going to come, but please, I hope your decency and your kindness and your goodwill will be motivating you going forward. You want this to be sustainable? That's how I think you should do it. You want other states to go green, basically. Report cards from legal states need to be so overwhelmingly good that people start petitioning their governments, their state governments, like the Midwest to me is the nut to crack. As soon as these Midwest states start getting so many people writing petitions and imploring their government to go legal for cannabis, it's going to be because so many good report cards are coming from the legal states. I would love to see Oregon be leading that, because you are so pure to begin with. The state is one huge postcard for beauty and ecological health. And this is what I think is important going forward. Because like I said, we're moving history forward. We are moving civil rights forward. We are moving culture forward. Yes, there's money, but to me, there's something much bigger at stake. There's overturning racism and bigotry, and you can't have that conversation without talking about cannabis, because cannabis has been used as a thing to grind brown people, black people, poor people into the dirt for damn near a century in this country. And that's what I think is so important, because the rest of the day, people are going to be talking to you about more facts and figures. I wanted to come in and talk to you more from the hearts and minds point of view, and obviously I feel very passionate about this. When I got into music, I started touring America. I've met more Americans than any president, and I'm not trying to impress you. I've shook more hands than anyone you've ever met. It's my line of work. I meet a lot of people, and sometimes they're waiting for me in my driveway. It's a little intense. But I've met so many wonderful people in this country, and as I said in my columns in the LA Weekly, I said a couple of weeks ago, it's a country full of really nice people. It's just not that nice a place. I think we need to start working on that. And I think it happens in this century. And because this is the only century you and I have. And I think cannabis legalization going forward is a huge proponent of that. How you are with people in your locality is going to be very important for your economic well-being and for the well-being of this country. So what I'm saying is it's way bigger than just a store and incoming. I've been around people who just sell stuff for a living. I was in the major label industry for 10 years, as an artist. And I just met mercenaries. Henry, we can sell 1 million of anything. Which basically implies we don't like your record, but we're so amazing, we can sell 1 million of your piece of crap record that we don't like or understand because we can sell anything. Because the people we're selling it to are basically stupid. And I realized what a mistake I had made by going into the major label industry, and finally when the DreamWorks contract ended and I was back on the loose again out in the independent world, it was like breathing fresh air. I think you and I are part of that fresh air. Let me check my time. Like I said, I could talk to you all day. If anyone has any questions for me, save them up, because I'll be standing amongst you to take those questions. I can't think of anything you'd want to ask me, but I'm here for you to answer those questions. I don't know what else I can say to you without repeating over and over again, and I don't want to intrude on your brain with saying this message over and over again. So, if any of you have any questions, I will stand here and do my best to answer them. If you don't, I can ply you with witty repartee all day. But as far as what I wanted to say to you going forward, I've said it. Please be decent to these people. And don't hear me saying this like I don't think you will be. I kind of know that you will be. Like I said, I wanted us all to be in a room together to hear this. And I can't thank Alex enough for allowing me to have some time with you. It was wild. Several months ago, Alex contacted me and he said, hey, here's what I'm doing, and I want you to come and speak. And I know you don't smoke, but I know that you stand up for cannabis. And I enjoy being someone who stands up for things because I think it's the right thing to do. That's what Joe Strummer of The Clash instructs me to do. That's what punk rock instructs me to do. That's why when someone says, Marco, I say polo. When I walk by, someone goes, hey, Henry, I don't go, I didn't hear you. Of course I heard you. And so when the young person emails me, I do my best to email back. There's quite a lot of anger towards people who are different in this country. I used to get chased by angry members of the military on a drunken weekend from the base in Washington, D.C. Come here, you punk rock faggot! And thankfully, I was terrified and they were drunk, so I could always outrun them. Come here, Devo! They want to beat me up. And so I've been part of a maligned group ever since I was about 18 years of age. There's a lot of people who beat up on people who like marijuana in this country. There's a lot of people who beat up on homosexual LGBT people in this country. There's a lot of people who beat up on minorities in this country. There's a lot of people who beat up on women in this country. You can find them definitely in this current administration and in news media. You and I in Cannabis are a part of overturning and neutralizing this. And I know I'm being slightly hyperbolic, but I really believe that to be true. And this is why I stand up for all these causes, because someone needs to be standing there going, not today, your ideas suck, and they're old, and they're not provable, and they need to be over. Okay? And so, you and I are part of that. And it must be insane for you at 9:30 in the morning to have to sit to a man, listening to a man yelling at you for half an hour. So now, mercifully, I'll kind of shut up. And if any of you have anything you want to ask, please fire away. If
you have any questions from the audience?
I'll get out of your way. Go ahead.
Do you think you will ever try cannabis again? Because if you do, Oregon is the place to try it.
Okay. Thank you for your question. Here's my answer to that. I don't want to use cannabis until the day I do. And on the day I do, I don't want to find a dealer. I don't want to sneak around. I don't want to meet someone in the dark of night to get the baggie to run back from the park, to go into the basement to light up. I want to go into a store and get some advice and buy some really good product grown by people who really love to grow cannabis. That's what I want. And so one day if my knees hurt too much or my hands are swollen or what the hell, I want to see what a different part of my mind does. I'll try some cannabis. But I want to be able to try it ethically and be advised by someone who cares for me. Like, okay, I don't want you to have a bad experience. Don't try this, try this. If you like it, come back next week and we'll try something else. That's what I want. So I want to be someone who's never tried it, who one day gets curious and has a really good experience, because people who care, someone like you, will be giving me the right advice and not caring about my money, but caring more about my good time and my well-being, knowing that if I have a good experience, they're going to get my money. I'll come back and come back and come back. And that's my answer to that question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sunny, and I'm a medical grower, and I just want to say that I applaud you. You don't consume, and I have many friends who don't consume cannabis, yet they're very supportive, empathetic to the movement, and so I just wanted to say thank you. Secondly, I also wanted to know if you had an interest from an investment level. I don't know what state you live in. I'm presuming California.
Yeah.
Are you interested yourself in investing?
Everything in me says yes, but if I formally said yes, I know I would get inundated with cars and emails and so much enthusiasm, even I couldn't handle it. Because when my camera crew mates and I walked out of the grow facility in Colorado, which was so state-of-the-art, and I asked someone, they go, how much do you people make every single week? He said, I can't tell you anything, but it's going to be a gajillion dollar a year. I said, really? And we all went, could we get in on this? Because it seems like the smartest damn investment. And so it's an interesting way to make a buck in that investing in this. For me, on a hearts and minds level, would feel slightly mercenary, like I'm not using, I'm not growing, I'm not in the shop, yet I'm making money. On the other hand, if I'm helping a company go forward with helping invest in them, cool. But then on the other hand, a lot of wonderful, ambitious ventures go south. I had 2 record labels. I put out the best jazz records. I cranked out 3,000 CDs of a beautiful avant piano player from the East Village. 80 people bought the records. The others half-lifed in my garage and eventually died when the roof caved in and they got flooded. I lost so much money putting out records of people I admire. I nearly lost my house putting out really good records that the critics loved and no one bought. And so I went into it with nothing but the best of intentions and overwhelming enthusiasm, and I was nearly living with a barrel with ropes for suspenders. And so whenever anyone ever comes up to me and says, "You want to invest?" I'm like, "Sure." I'm terrified of you. And it's just because of something going out of my control and going south. But would I like to be able to sit around and watch money like fall out of the sky next to me? Kinda. I mean, yeah, I'd rather go earn it, but that would be earning it, I guess. But please don't start emailing me with your wonderful ideas, because I'm probably just too chicken. Yeah.
Henry spoke wonderfully about the war on drugs, its impact on the poor, minorities, and such.
Well, it's a war on the poor and minorities, and it's a war that wins because it loses. And that's why, unless you and I really move forcefully, it will never end because it's too much of a moneymaker. And that's these people know. If it ends, you can no longer lock up black, brown, and poor people as easily as you can now. And as you know, you have about 50-50 using cannabis, black, white, in this country. Overwhelmingly 4-1, 3-1, you have African Americans incarcerated because of cannabis or non-violent drug offenses. And so the racism it can't be more in your face. And like I said, if the beds start emptying because we legalize, they'll find a new thing to criminalize and they'll make the way into the system. They'll grease it up and you'll find a new way to slide into it. And so it is a war, and it's won by being lost. It's a scam. It's like so many things in this country. It's a scam, it's a scam, it's a scam. Like the Iraq War, it was a scam. 5 people got paid, and thousands of people got blown up or just destroyed, psychically or physically. But Dick Cheney and 4 other people got rich. And as always, so many things in this country from day one to now, it's a scam. And you and I, we are the anti-scam. That wasn't the question you asked me. I went off anyway, so go ahead.
Well, part of that discussion does touch into the areas of mass incarceration and privilege in our society. I'm wondering, as someone who worked in the major label world, do you have any examples of how rock stars got away with things that we wouldn't have gotten away with, privilege-wise, law-wise?
Statutory rape? I mean, no, rock stars get away with all kinds of things. It's a privileged class. On the bright side of things, on days when museums are closed, they open them for you. Wings of major art galleries open for you. These are the advantages I take. You get to have rock star tours of the Library of Congress and the National Archives and sit in the room with the first 26 years of Congress and look at documents from Adams and Lincoln and all that, which I did. There's also things, people would see me on stage and that they'd find me in the men's room later like, "You want more speed?" Because they thought I was on speed. And I'm like, "Oh, no, I can't get near that." They're like, "Oh, come on, man, you're not high?" I'm like, "I'm high on life." And so there's a lot of things offered you. There's a lot of pleasuring that can come your way from people offering their assets to all kinds of things. And they get away with all kinds of things, but what to me, what a lot of people get away with is the crime of mediocrity, of selling mediocre product, of forcing bands who aren't ready yet to make a record and go on tour. The ripening, they need another year in the clubs before you push them out onto a big stage because they just wanted the money. So these bands are basically grown like menudo, and when they don't sell enough, they're just tossed away, and they grab from the farm team and they put them in there. It's a scam, and they make money off young people and their youth and their vitality, and they sell this. It's like Soylent Green. They grind up these people and feed these people back to them. And that's why the major label industry failed, because they stopped doing good things and they just went for money instead. And thankfully it blew up in their face. And now you have the stuff that you see at the halftime Super Bowl games. It's just like, wow, they dance so well and she's wearing no clothes. Wow, is that a bit of labia? How little clothes can she wear? She's really pushing it, but no artistic thing is pushed. It's just pudenda. Latin, 8th grade.
Do you have any more questions? In the back here.
How we get the
Hold on, I'll get the mic so you can hear you.
But we're gonna mic you. We're going to mic you.
How do we get the black man out of jail? What are the things that we can actually do? Because they're in jail and we're making money right now, and we need to get them out at the very least.
Great question. And here's the best answer I have. Information, and hopefully advising young people about use. What's happening in some states now that cannabis has been decriminalized? Now they're going after underage people for using because they can put them in jail. And so to me, it's public outreach, it's information, but of course it leads to a bigger and bigger problem. My mother worked for health, education, and welfare under Johnson, under Joseph Califano in the 1860s when we were young. And her basic life goal was to make American public educational delivery systems deliver to people who would go to these schools. And I saw the breakdown, and because I went through the Washington, D.C. public school system, we didn't learn a damn thing compared to other schools I was forced into later on. And I think in this country, we are purposefully undereducated, so we fill battlefields and prisons more quickly. When you don't travel, when you can't find Libya on a map, but you hate them anyway, etc. When you can't find, you don't know where Benghazi is, you can't find Yemen on the map, and you don't have a passport and you don't travel, you can be talked into almost any damn thing. When you don't have an education, prison or a battlefield is a very viable, it's not a probable outcome, but it's a very possible outcome. How do you keep minorities out of prison? You gotta educate as many people as you can. One of my heroes, Chuck D, a Public Enemy, he always says, each one teach one. And that's one of the things I try and do because I heard it first from Chuck. And that is my answer. Education, information, and as you grow your businesses, you give out information to the people in your community. And it starts locally and goes out from there. Past that, you need to tell the American government to stop doing everything the way it's doing and do it a different way, which I've been trying, you've been trying, lots of people have been trying, even presidents tried, and in my opinion, they fail. Because the money does not favor equality or emancipation, never has.
Hey there,
That's silence.
I have a follow-up question on what you just talked about. I agree with the education and the power of one and each person that walks into the store, people that we meet on the street. Are there organizations that you know about and would support that businesses could partner with through membership who educate at a larger level through curriculum development or to change public policy?
I do not. I've not gone into it that much. Basically, I read, I experience, I meet people, I sound off about it. As far as like reaching out to organizations, I have not. I make cash contributions to a handful of organizations on a regular basis. None of them are cannabis. It's ACLU, Southern Poverty Law Center, Planned Parenthood. It's kind of those groups. Well, it's a good thing to do. But as far as cannabis, this has been my, besides writing about it, talking about it on stage at my own shows, it's this. It's Alex asking me and me talking to people who are already on board, which is cool, but it'd be great to talk to a bunch of people who either greatly disagree with me or don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I'm not saying I'm preaching to the converted, I'm just saying we're all kind of on the same page. And so this only goes so far. But as far as directing someone to an organization, I'm sorry. I don't have a single suggestion to make. I should rectify that.
I'll throw in a suggestion.
Please do.
The Minority Cannabis Business Association. Find them at minoritycannabis.org.
Minoritycannabis.org?
Yeah, Minority Cannabis Business Association is working on this. And one of the problems we've also had is in licensing when they deny license to people if they had a previous conviction. Well, guess who got most of the previous convictions? Mostly black and brown people. I've often thought maybe on our licensing, we should give points to people who were busted before. That way it helps, even if I got busted before, I get points too, and then maybe we get the best people who've been working in this industry on the legal side.
That's great.
Do we have any other questions?
There's so many good ideas. It's just that when you have to combat racists and bigots, it's such a tiring battle.
Question over here.
Hey Russ, does a half year in German prison put me at the top?
You get extra points just for being you.
Well, we have to pay the government 50% in taxes right now. So I'm pretty sure that, I guess the IRS is thrilled about that. But what's your opinion on the politics that we're not talking about here? Because I think it's a real good secret in here that the government makes a whole lot more money selling this stuff than they are going to get from the taxes. I mean, that they're going to get from us. And is that the real issue, or is it the fact that when you smoke pot, you start thinking in ways that the establishment perhaps doesn't like you to think? So, yeah, I'm kind of worried about the, the money. Like, we're taking money away from groups that I don't want to talk about, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Not quite. I'm just not quite understanding.
Doesn't everyone, I mean, the CIA sells this stuff, so we're taking money directly out of their pocket.
Let me see if I can restate that a little bit. We've got a lot of black ops that go on underground in the government. For a long time, the CIA distributed crack cocaine through Los Angeles. They make a lot of Right, they make a lot of off-the-books money on the illegal drug trade. How much is that way into them opposing us us legalizing it?
Understood. I have no idea. I have absolutely no idea of any fact or figure of any of that, and all I can claim is ignorance.
And the other side of that question too had to do with how much does the empathy and the mind expansion that we get from our cannabis use factor into this? Do you think they consider that? They want to keep us dumb and uneducated, and part of that is not
Absolutely. I think they fear cannabis users because it makes you think. It makes you be introspective, and you might start questioning your government. A long time ago, I had a TV show on the Independent Film Channel, and I interviewed Samuel Jackson, the great actor. And I didn't want to ask him about what it was like working with Quentin Tarantino for the millionth time. So I did a lot of research on him. I found out that he was friends with a lot of the famous Black Panthers, that he was an usher at Martin Luther King's funeral, and that he was a real part of the civil rights movement. So when I met him, I said, can we talk about you being friends with a Huey Newton? And he went, yeah! And we spent the whole hour talking about that. And he said something really interesting. He said, we all used to smoke weed. And one day, where we lived, there was no more weed, and all of a sudden, all you could buy was heroin. It was like one day, boom, cannabis gone, heroin in. So I said, you didn't start using heroin, did you? He said, of course we did! And they all became hooked. And that was Hoover, that was COINTELPRO. I remember in the 1980s, when I was in Black Flag living in Los Angeles, we would leave on these massive tours, like multiple fiscal quarters at a time, and come back ragged. And we'd come back and go to the local wherever and hang out and find out what had been happening since we had been gone. And it was usually bad news. He's dead, she's dead, and it was from crystal meth, it was from heroin, overdosing, suicide, just beautiful young people dying. And I remember right around 1983, you could almost trip over bags of heroin on the streets of Hollywood. Yes, I'm exaggerating a little bit, not too much. You eat at Denny's. Would you like a side of heroin? How much? It's only $1.75. And I talk to people who would tell me and my girlfriend, we've been trying heroin for the last 6 weeks. I mean, we're not addicted. We're just checking it out. Like, why are you trying heroin? Because our weed dealers now have heroin too, and they're giving us a discount. In fact, they gave us our first 3 doses for free. And that's when I realized that they are trying to kill us. And I was 23 at the time, it was like 1984, right around the time I read Howl by Allen Ginsberg, one of the greatest pieces of American literature. I went, wait a minute, this is us. We are being predated upon. They are hunting us down and killing us so they can go to the LA Times and say, see, that's what they do. They do heroin and they overdose in bathtubs. They're disgusting and they need to be put in prison. And that's when it really opened my eyes to the scam of law enforcement in this country and this is the war on drugs. This is your power, Ronald Reagan. I think the war on drugs started with Nixon, but it was Ronald Reagan who really made it a thing. And that was a part of it. So as far as angering people that we are pro-cannabis, basically pro-science, pro-intellect, pro-progress. You think you're not pissing people off? Like I said 30 minutes ago, you are going up against the prison industrial complex, law enforcement in any state, big pharma, and big agriculture. You're going up against some of the mightiest money-making forces in this country with your humble cannabis store. And that's why you need to be really cool and really smart and really dig the people in your community, because they protect you and you protect them. And this change, no administration is going to like it. And not even the Obama administration is that cool about this. And this present one will be even less cool. Going forwards, I don't have a crystal ball. All I have is you, and all we have is us and our good ideas going forward. As far as us versus the CIA, that's fairly terrifying. Because you know what they can get up to. Anything else?
Ladies and gentlemen, Henry Rollins, everyone.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day tonight. It was very nice being amongst you. Good luck. Have a wonderful conference.